The suckers and losers comment that he has made, it drives me crazy. People who volunteer and serve for this military or for this country are not suckers and losers. They're patriots. The people who stormed the Capitol with tear gas and beat up cops, they're not patriots. They're the suckers and losers. I think we got this all wrong. We got this backwards. I have also taken the oath many times. I am also retired military.
Okay. Thank you for serving.
And my father was in the Army. My brother, during World War II, my brother served during Vietnam. And I can go down, I've got a list of about 15 people I can name in my family that have served this country. They're not suckers and losers. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. So if he throws out the Constitution, and I have heard him say that, then the country is no more.
So we're here this evening with Bonnie in the Omaha Metro on a breezy but beautiful Sunday evening. We are talking about the 2024 U.S. presidential election. To start off, have you heard about Project 2025?
I've not only heard about it, I've read most of it.
Congratulations. Everybody should try to find the time to do that. So for anybody watching this video that may not be familiar, I'm just going to, kind of give a little background. Project 2025 is a political blueprint published by the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank. Project 2025 seeks to reshape the U.S. federal government by promoting conservative and right-wing policies, by consolidating power in the executive branch. Here is a video from the Lincoln Project called Aftermath, looking at how Project 2025 could be implemented if Donald Trump is reelected. Please watch the video, and then I'd like to ask for your comments afterwards.
November 5th, 2024. Donald Trump defeats a divided and dispirited Democratic campaign. On January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump is sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. Unfortunately, he keeps his promises. Trump seizes control of a divided government, signing hundreds of executive orders implementing Project 2025. Trump replaces over 50,000 civil servants with hardline MAGA loyalists. The federal oath of office now requires declaring loyalty to the president, not the Constitution. Protected by the Supreme Court's grant of total immunity for official acts, Donald Trump orders the Department of Justice to arrest members of the January 6th Commission, current and former DOJ employees, and political opponents for treason, election interference, and conspiracy. He declares it to be an official act. Trump ends birthright citizenship by executive order and turns millions of American-born citizens into illegal aliens overnight. Mass deportations begin. Hundreds of thousands, including legal U.S. residents and American citizens, are imprisoned in newly built camps. Protests erupt. Trump addresses the nation from the Oval Office, invoking the Insurrection Act and declaring the protesters a danger to American sovereignty. He orders the National Guard to use deadly force to suppress the protests. In the wake of the bloody violence, Trump declares nationwide martial law, awarding himself new powers under the freshly signed American Sovereignty Protection Order, which defines protest of immigration policies as non-protected speech and a threat to national security. Governors in New York, California, Illinois, and elsewhere declare their opposition, promising to refuse compliance in their states. Trump orders their arrests. Trump pardons every January 6th attacker, including those who assaulted the police, and in a White House ceremony issues a new presidential medal honoring them. Many are given jobs in his administration. The Department of Education is renamed the Department of American Values and mandates a nationwide Christian nationalist curriculum for all schools receiving federal aid. Trump, joined by Speaker Mike Johnson and evangelical leaders, announces that the Department of Health and Human Services has reclassified mifepristone, making it illegal to distribute or prescribe, as well as new HHS regulations that make IVF treatments impossible to legally administer. Trump reverses one campaign promise by declaring a national abortion ban by executive order. Challenges to his authority are rejected by the Supreme Court, which has seen new appointments from Trump after it was expanded to 12 justices. He signs an executive order removing abortion records from HIPAA privacy regulations and announces a new federal data sharing program so states can monitor women's periods. Thousands are detained while crossing state lines under suspicion of seeking an abortion. Trump's acting Secretary of Defense, a disgraced ex-general, fires over 400 generals and admirals, leaving the military leaderless. Other Trump appointees purge the ranks of the CIA, FBI, and Department of Justice. By executive order, Trump withdraws the United States from NATO and ends Pentagon cooperation with Ukraine. Russian tanks enter Kyiv. Vladimir Zelensky is killed. It is announced that Trump will run for a third term, claiming he was unfairly cheated in the 2020 election. His Supreme Court ultimately agrees with this interpretation, paving the way for Trump's 2028 re-election. If you hear all this and believe it isn't possible, then ask yourself, what did you believe was impossible just 8 years ago? This isn't a fantasy. It's Trump's plan, and he's counting on you to believe it couldn't happen.
What is your reaction to the video?
The same reaction I had when I read it. Ask me more specific questions. That's too broad of a subject.
All right. Well, actually, before I dive into my other questions, since you did read most of Project 2025, can you talk about some things that really jumped out at you, whether, maybe they coincide with which is in the video or other things? And I mean, it's a 922-page document, so, right.
That's why I say I read most of it, not.
Yeah, well, but I mean, it just, share with what your impressions of reading it. I mean,
they want to take all, they want to put in Trump loyalists in all the jobs who probably don't know anything about the job that they're going to be in, other than the fact they'll do whatever Trump wants them to do, and Trump doesn't know anything about it either. How much do you know about chemicals and how many parts of this can be in your water and this can be in your water without it being, I
have no clue.
And I'm guessing Trump doesn't either, and probably his loyalists don't either. That's why we have scientists who know that stuff. And it continues all through that vein. It's like, I don't want Trump running a nuclear facility because I'm pretty sure he doesn't know anything about it. It just goes on and on and on. It's like, no, the public servants are there for a reason, because they're specialists in their field. Sometimes I think they get a little carried away, but they are specialists in their field.
Another thing, too, to add, right, and a little self-promotion here, I'm actually going to have a fairly in-depth video talking about Project 2025 that I hope to publish here, right, maybe in the next week, that will drill down into more specifics. But one of the things I mentioned in that talking head video, my script, is that for all of the people that bash bureaucrats, one of the things you have to understand is that most people that work for government, whether you're talking at the federal level, state level, or local level, first of all, have a broad background, right? People on the left and the right side of the aisle, from the city, from the country, all different kinds, right? A melting pot, which is a good thing. First point. The second thing is that most of them, right, are career professionals in their area of expertise. Exactly. And that's a good thing, because presidents come, presidents go, elected officials come, elected officials go.
And you need somebody to be there to say, no, you can't do this. This is what this is going to happen. They're nonpartisan experts in their field.
And even if it's something, right, and not to pick on a particular department, something that people, don't feel is glamorous, let's say like working for the DMV or for the water board, it's like, well, but you still need experts in all of those roles to make sure that we have a well-oiled machine and that things work. And I think a lot of us take that for granted, but if they were all replaced tomorrow, very quickly you would find out, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
How would you feel, I'm going to go through some points that the video makes. How would you feel if the next president of the United States, Donald Trump, first of all, threw out the U.S. Constitution and jailed his political opponents?
You know, one of the things that he says that drives me, this is off the subject. I'm being a politician here. I'm just going to go with what I want to say.
That's fine.
Is,
I'm here to
is
listen.
That you know, the suckers and losers comment that he has made, it drives me crazy. People who volunteer and serve for this military or for this country are not suckers and losers. They're patriots. The people who stormed the Capitol with tear gas and beat up cops, they're not patriots. They're the suckers and losers. I think we got this all wrong. We got this backwards. Now, your question was, how do I feel about what? I forgot.
That's fine. How would you feel if the next president of the United States, Donald Trump, the first question is, threw out the U.S. Constitution and jailed his political opponents?
I have also taken the oath many times. I am also retired military.
Okay. Thank you for serving.
And my father was in the Army. My brother, during World War II, my brother served during Vietnam. And I can go down, I've got a list of about 15 people I can name in my family that have served this country. They're not suckers and losers.
And you've taken the oath to protect America?
Protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Not protect and defend Donald Trump. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. So if he throws out the Constitution, and I have heard him say that, then the country is no more.
Well, I think if you take a look at a lot of third world countries that have, autocrats and authoritarian regimes and dictators,
yes.
One of the first two things that they do, first thing is squash the free press.
Right.
Okay. And the second thing is go after all of your opponents.
Right.
And, people have to realize, right, that, things go back and forth. You might say, like, hey, yeah, I hate Kamala Harris, but guess what? Eventually there's going to be a Democratic president, and what if they turn around and do that to their Republicans, right, counterparts? You don't want that, trust me.
No, you don't. And I was a Republican until 2016. I was a lifelong lifelong Republican until 2016. I could not bring myself to vote for that man.
Okay.
So if that tells you anything, and I'm not sure I'm still not a Republican. I'm just not. The party kind of left me.
Okay.
I don't think I left the party.
Just on a side note, how do you this video was from the Lincoln Project, right?
Yes. It was. And they made one for Reagan too. It just wasn't as bad.
How do you feel about whether you ultimately associate, right, as being the party of Lincoln or the party of Reagan, right, in more modern times? How much do you think that the Republican Party has changed from back in those days?
It's not a party, it's a cult. It is not a party. And if you watch, the people that are still Republicans are starting to leave too. Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people in his administration. I can go on and on and on, but they're all said, threw up their hands and said, I can't do this.
What happened to the Republican Party? Is Donald Trump to blame for all of this, or did it start before?
I didn't realize it before. I don't know. I didn't see it before. But I saw it during the 2016 campaign, or I guess it would have been the 2015.
Right, leading up
to the campaign. And when you call people like John McCain, whatever,
a
loser
because he was captured.
Yeah, because he was captured, and I don't like people that are captured. I was like, okay, but but you and your bone spurs do just fine, and
I would challenge anybody watching this video to read up on the horrific suffering that John McCain
for
made
5-6 years,
right, as a POW, and as if he hadn't served America enough. What did he do? He came back, and he served out until his final days.
Exactly.
Serving in a different way, in an equally important way. And for anybody to call somebody like John McCain a loser or a sucker, it is blasphemous.
And then, he made fun of a Gold Star family. He made fun of somebody that was disabled. It's like, who are you? And he project in anything that I watched a lot of news, and I can tell you just about everything he projects that and says the Democrats are going to do this. It's because he has already done it. It's all projection.
How would you feel if Donald Trump, you already kind of answered this, but pardoned all of the January 6th protesters and gave them medals? Because he has kind of alluded to that in the past.
He has. And
how would that make you feel as a veteran, as an American?
I did the same thing. I earned my medals. I worked hard for them. I sure as heck didn't storm the Capitol of the United States, and it would hurt me. What can I do? But yeah, it would bother me a lot. I don't have a good answer for that, I guess.
If the next president of the United States ended birthright citizenship and began mass deportations.
Well, here's the way I look at that. My great-grandfather what's the word I'm looking for here came over.
Immigrated.
Was immigrated. So that meant that because my grandparents were born here, or some of my grandparents weren't born here. So they're not citizens. So that meant my parents aren't citizens. So that means I'm not a citizen. So I'm not sure what country he wants me to go to, but I'll be glad to go there. No, I think that's just stupid.
If the next president of the United States renamed the Department of Education to the Department of American Values, which mandated a nationwide Christian nationalist curriculum for all schools receiving federal aid. So that would be K through 12, community colleges, four-year colleges.
I think there's some states already doing that. Is it Oklahoma that is requiring a Bible in every school? I can't.
Yes.
Okay, a Bible in every classroom. Oh, and by the way, it has to be leather bound and include the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and everything else. There's only one Bible that has that stuff in it. But I think they're already doing that. I would agree there is a separation of church and state, and I think that they should teach history, not revisionist history. Slaves were they had it good. They liked it. They enjoyed it. It was all good. I've heard that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm kind of thinking that's
there's
not right.
A lot of revisionism out there.
Yeah, so it's all let's teach real history. No, I'm proud to be an American, and we've done a lot of really good things, but we have also done some really sucky things. And
one thing I want to interject that I think I hear a lot of people say that gets lost in the conversation is that, to me, one of the foundations, of America, of being an American, is the ability, to protest, to speak up, to complain. That's how this country came to be. Is enough people said, you know what, King, we've had it with you. We're out of here, and took all of their worldly possessions, or probably not all of them. Probably took the shirt on their back and jumped on a ship, and came all the way across the Atlantic, to start another nation. And so I've never understood when people get upset when, people are protesting and complaining and criticizing, I see this shirt a lot, especially when you travel to truck stops and stuff when I travel across the U.S. If you don't like this flag, then get out. And I think, but this flag, represents,
everybody,
and it represents, the protesting to make this a better nation for everybody. And so I don't understand why people protest about protesting and speaking up and criticizing things, because That's what this country is built on.
But that's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking, especially people who disagree with him. That's all it is. If you don't agree with me, then, then
that's not
then that's not good enough.
Right. Well, that's not very American, is it? Right. If you don't agree with me, then shut up. No. A couple more questions. How would you feel if the next president of the United States stripped women of all reproductive rights by making mifepristone illegal, IVF impossible to get, and abortion illegal in all 50 states?
What year was it that women got rights of any way, shape, or form?
Well, Roe v. Wade was...
but before that, even the right to vote. Suffrage. Let's think the 1920s or maybe some...
Sounds about right. I have to...
Roe v. Wade was 50 years ago, I think, approximately.
Right, 50 or 52.
Yeah. And, like, are we going back there? Like, at some point in time where, okay, so you don't have the right to vote or anything? I mean, let's just go there. It was in the 1970s before women could sign a loan to buy a house. That was not that long ago. I was alive. I was a teenager. As a matter of fact, I probably might have been out of high school.
Okay. I was alive. I was just a young pup, but in my lifetime.
So, it was the 1970s before that could happen. And the other thing, I'm, again, going back to, I'm not sure any politician, well, most of them are not doctors, some of them are, but most politicians do not know anything about healthcare.
Agreed.
So why should they be able to tell me, or, well, at my point, at my age, it doesn't really matter anymore, but women what they can and can't do? And I would agree. I mean, I have an opinion, but I don't have a right to tell anybody else on this block or on any other block what they can do.
So put another way, right? I mean, that should be a conversation between you and your healthcare provider.
I would think so. Maybe your husband or your or whoever assisted in the
sure
in getting you pregnant, because I'm pretty sure it takes two.
Yeah.
But
last I heard.
Maybe you, him, and your healthcare provider, and your family. I mean, but not Joe Blow that sits in the White House, or even in the state.
Sure. A couple more questions here. Which of these things from the video, and there's a lot, worries you the most and why?
We're easiest.
Let me read that one again. Which of the things from the video worries you the most? I mean, it covered a lot of scenarios, right, highlighting what Project 2025 would happen if it's implemented. And also, since, you've read a lot of it, once again, are there certain things that worry you more?
That worry me more?
Yeah. I mean, if they're implemented.
I really think that probably what worries me the most is the firing of all the civil servants. And that's only because those people serve as guardrails against the worst aspects of whoever is president. You need to have somebody there that has worked the job, knows it inside out, can quote the book, the manual, the section, whatever, and say, here's what it says, and here's how it works, and here's why it works this way. And I will admit, I sometimes agree that, the worst thing that could ever happen to you is to have the government knock on your door and say, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. But wasn't that a Reagan saying?
Right.
But they need those guardrails. And if they do that and they put in only people who are loyalists, then what are the guardrails? And we're going to have a king. And, or we're we're going to be living in Russia by a different name. To be honest with you, I mean, who are his favorite people that he talks to all the time? You know, Putin, the guy from North Korea,
right? Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un, you know,
Xi Jinping from China.
I mean, you name him, and those are the ones that he's in love with. They're having a love affair. You know, it's like, seriously.
Well, another thing to consider is that if that happens, right, then how do you take the power back, right? Do you think somebody in that position is going to say, "Oh, sure, in 4 years, let's have another election, right, so
That's
that you can vote me out of office"?
He's already said, if you vote me in, you'll never have to vote again.
Right. He said that.
He said that.
He said that recently,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it was, in the last couple months, 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, he was at some Christian conference or whatever, and he said, "My beautiful Christians, right, you only have to vote one more time.
One more time. You never have to vote again."
And he wasn't kidding. He was serious.
I believe he was serious.
A couple more quick questions here. Do you ever think that you take your freedoms, your liberties, and American democracy itself for granted?
Absolutely not. You know that.
I mean, I think considering that you've served, right?
I'm retired. You know, I don't take that. I don't take that for granted. It was an honor. When people say thank you for my service, I'm like, no, it was my honor. I enjoyed most of it, but it was my honor. And they've done, you know, and the military's done, you know, a lot for me. The country's done a lot for me.
Yeah.
But like I said,
I think that's the right mindset.
It was my honor. It wasn't, don't thank me.
Final question. How does this video change how you view Donald Trump?
It doesn't.
Right.
I viewed him
There weren't any surprises?
There wasn't any surprises in it.
You're like, I already read the book. I already know about it.
But I will say that when I read the book, or
Project 2025.
It's hard to get through. It really is. It's hard to get through. You have to sit there, and I have to look up something because it's section so and so of section so and so of whatever. But when I read it, it made a deep pit in my stomach because it was probably worse than what I thought. Because in my mind, I guess I'm thinking 16 to 20 bad. But then I started reading this, and I'm like, oh no, this is way worse than 16 to 20. And he's trying to step back from that. He's trying to step back from the abortion things. He's trying to step back from 2025. So I don't have anything to do with that. Well, I can assure you that he didn't read it. Well, but
well, here's an interesting thing that on my research for this Talking Head video that I'm hopefully going to publish this week, that apparently, and I haven't had the luxury to read it, but I will eventually. I don't know about before the election. Apparently, Donald Trump's name appears in Project 2025 over 300 times.
I was going to say it was 300, I think. And his vice president wrote the intro to one or two of the sections. J.D. Vance wrote the introduction to a couple of the sections.
And off the top of my head, I think the statistic is that there was something like 160 people from Trump's administration and his inner circle that names are in, in the credits for contributing.
Right. If you read it, a lot of the names are very familiar that wrote that. So keep that in mind while you're reading it, because I took note of that too. Most of those people I knew their names.
Right.
And they were
off the top of my head. His former HUD director Ben Carson.
Yes, he's in
White House aide Peter Navarro.
Oh yes.
Those are. And I mean, there's so many that you can't remember all of them, but
exactly.
But if you read it, you're going to be like, oh, I at least know this person's name. I've heard of them. I've seen them in the news.
Exactly.
And so for Trump to walk away and say, I don't know
what that is. I don't know anything about. I can assure you, he didn't read it, but like I said, I had a hard time reading it. It really is. It's you have to decode it a little bit. A lot of it is just a little bit in code, I thought when I read it. But
well, we'll see how it goes, right? My on my infinite list of things that I want to do, I want to try to, and once again, before the election, I can't promise a lot, but I would like to go through and read the entire Project 2025, all 922 pages, and try to break it down into little tidbits and, to say, okay, we're going to talk about right in this video, here's a chapter or a section and how it very likely would impact you and something in your life or somebody that you know. These aren't obscure esoteric things like, oh, well, I feel bad for those people, but that would never happen to me. A lot of them are very, renaming the Department of Education, taking away women's reproductive rights. I mean, most of those things you can say like, a third, a quarter, a half of America could check a box and say, yeah, that applies to me in some way. And do you want to live in a country like that?
I don't. And the other thing that really bothers me is the whole education thing, because I really believe that if you don't know history, and we, you think history is this when it's really this. I had a teacher once that told me that the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery. And I tried to make sense of that for a long time, and I finally figured out that he was just, off his rocker, because it did have something to do with slavery, as far as I know, unless I'm totally misread it. But yeah, when you have teachers telling you that the Holocaust it didn't happen, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's a battle that I'm fighting, is fighting misinformation and disinformation, and it's getting harder. And I don't think anybody knows.
And by the way, I don't think Haitians are eating dogs and cats.
Okay, we worked that in. We were kidding off camera, right?
I was going to get that in there one way or the other. And they're not from Haiti.
No, it's a constant battle, and I unfortunately interview a lot of people, right, that take this stuff hook, line, and sinker. And I actually just let him spout. I was actually finishing up an interview, and young kid, nice kid, and at the end, right, he mentioned that he gets his worldview from Alex Jones, and I was kind of like,
there you go.
What are you going to say? And then I was kind of having a pep talk and mentioning some things, and all of a sudden I heard, some things that I can't say on this video coming from a gentleman apparently standing behind me, and he was like, here, I'll take over. He steps right in the camera and spouted off for like an hour and a half, 45 minutes. And he actually, he was nice to me, but the bottom line is that everything was the Democrats' fault. Everything was Joe Biden's fault. And there was nothing that I could get into the conversation, even when he would let me talk for a minute or two. He was just like, it was like a little kid sticking, you can't see me, but putting your fingers in your ears, la, 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 I can't hear you. And a lot of people would say, that's funny, that's comical. And to some point it does have entertainment value, but I think the bigger takeaway is that it's very scary. If when somebody disagrees with you, it's just like because you're wrong and that doesn't exist, how do you have a conversation with somebody like that? You can't.
Well, and you can't. And you if you try to fact check most of these people, it's you can't keep up with what is being said, or the lies that are being said. It started day one when he had the biggest crowd in the history of the world.
Right. Well, another
and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. 90% of what they say is not true. And everybody says, well, no, I don't say that. Or,
right. Well, one of the challenges is too, and I don't have the proper logical term for this, but if I make an assertion. Yeah, we'll wrap this up here. If I make an assertion, right, that there is some asteroid or meteor heading for the Earth from the XYZ
country
cosmos, how do you disprove me? Are you going to go get in your spaceship and go fly out there and say, hey, Greg, nope, I've checked, right? There's nothing coming towards it's going to destroy the Earth.
But I'm sure it's the Democrats' fault.
Well, of course.
And
so the thing is that if you watch not just Donald Trump or J.D. Vance, but just honestly, talking to people make these insane assertions, and how do you disprove them? It's not that you don't have time to fact check them, but if I say that, if I just make something up, how do you prove something that doesn't exist, that isn't real, that is unprovable?
Right.
And until
You
it
can't
happens,
you can't prove a negative.
right? Exactly. And so if I say, well, you can't prove that there isn't these aliens coming, right, to take over and whatever, then
Was it alien space lasers caused the fires in California?
Jewish
alien space lasers.
right?
George Soros?
and
Yes.
and in Hawaii,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
in Maui.
Yeah. They caused that fire.
So it's exhausting. But hey, final question here. The sun's going down. Finally, your face isn't a ball of orange, right? I'm gonna have to go through and color correct this because it looked like I was interviewing the sun.
I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks for being a warrior. In all seriousness, do you have any final takeaways, right? We're 30 days away today from the 2024 U.S. presidential election, right? We've got a lot of, American democracy, the Constitution, our way of life is on the ballot.
I would agree.
And these are scary times. And even if Donald Trump is defeated, he's not going away, and his ilk are not going away anytime soon. So do you have any...
I have a question,
Sure.
though. Do we really think, or I'm not sure that I believe that without Donald Trump, that and there are going to be some hanger-oners, but I don't think they have the same staying power as Trump does, because
I hope that you're right, but...
I'm not sure, but that's my hope, that we just need to vote him out this one time, and at that point in time, yes, there's going to be... I turned off my game. Sorry.
That's fine. If you need to get that.
I don't need to get that.
All right.
I thought I turned off my ringer. But what? Oh, I think it's Renee.
All right. So just to wrap this up, because I know you need to go.
I'm sorry.
So
You need to go.
you feel that if Donald Trump loses the election, that a lot of his supporters are going to fizzle out, basically?
I think some of them will. I don't know if all of them will. Maybe it's just me trying to be optimistic. I don't know, but I don't think most of them would have come to, the Marjorie Taylor Greens and stuff. They're a little bit. I don't think that if they would have, if normalcy was the standard, or the norm, then I think that they would. Most people will kind of stay within a 5 to 10 degree range, but then when you have somebody that's up here at the 90% crazy range, and then everybody kind of elevates up, and I'm hoping that when you take the leader out of that, they kind of elevate back down.
Well, kind of to
Does that
what
make
you're
sense?
to what you're saying.
I was-
Putting it another way, maybe if we just have a normal, boring presidency like in the good old days, and 4 years, of progress.
But isn't that what we just had?
Yes, but Donald Trump unfortunately drowned out so much of what Joe Biden's
Yeah.
administration did. And my hope is that, if he's taken out of the equation, that the president, and all that our government does do, to help us out as citizens, people can focus on that and say, geez, I never knew about this infrastructure bill.
But they don't. They don't.
And that's a big problem.
And people forget that there was COVID. And
we're not wearing masks. We're sitting here within. We're not socially distancing.
Yes.
We're back to a fairly normal life, right?
And we're back to a fairly normal life.
Thanks to people like Dr. Fauci.
Yeah. And Trump didn't want to tell anybody about it, because they're like, well, if we don't test people, then we don't have it. It's kind of like cancer. Okay, if we don't do any tests for cancer, that means that I didn't have cancer, right?
Right. Well, that's the logic.
But I don't think it works that way.
Or the mislogic. If only life was that simple.
Yeah.
I just won't think about it, and then I won't have that problem.
Right. Exactly. So and I don't think that's
That's not reality.
I don't think that's reality. Well, I know that's not reality.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, because I did have cancer.
Wow.
So
And
if I didn't test for it, I wouldn't have known.
And you wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here talking to you.
You wouldn't be here talking. Well, probably you still would be, because it was really recently. But at some point in time, you wouldn't be. So, COVID's the same way. If we don't test for COVID, then nobody has it. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, And I know people that like that. Well, I don't want to, I don't want to have this test or this test because if it's positive, then I just don't want to have cancer. So I'm just not. Okay, so now you're at stage 4 cancer and you got a month to live, or you're at stage 1 and it's treatable.
Yep.
So
it's that simple.
I mean,
you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And I always tell people, like, don't be scared of the truth. It's such a better, happier place.
It is. It is a very happy. The truth is a better place than where we're at right now, which is, and everybody gets their information from social media, something, and nobody knows who's saying what, or
And now we have AI, right?
Yeah, and now we have AI, which makes it even worse, and I don't understand that. I said it's pretty simple. When I was growing up, we used the Dewey Decimal System and went to the library. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, instead of artificial intelligence, how about real intelligence?
How about that?
What a concept.
What a concept. How about true intelligence? What I want is that somebody, and when somebody tells a lie, they like, yeah. Can we get somebody that sits?
I saw a bumper sticker somewhere. I didn't have my phone with me to take a picture. It said, "Stupid should hurt."
Stupid should hurt.
If we could just do that, then that would fix probably most things.
And I think lies should hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll be honest with you. And Jim will tell you. I mean, we give each other shit and we exaggerate about a lot of things and crap like that. But we know. Yeah, we know what we're doing.
Sure.
And we're not being mean about it. And if they ask me a real question, I mean, half the neighbors around here I know, and man, there are some serious bullshitters in this neighborhood. And there's some that have told wild terror, stories on me, and I just sit there and shake my head. But it's all in good fun, and there's a difference between it being in good fun
and actually believing
it, and it hurting the country and hurting the people,
right? And spreading the disease to other people that
exactly
maybe don't have the critical thinking skills to say, "Hey, is this true?" And then you get a wildfire.
Exactly.
So on that note, Tuesday, November 5th, 30 days away. Here's your chance to save democracy. I don't think I have to tell you to vote. And
no, it'll be done well before that. But
that's a smart action to take.
It will be done well before that.
So
it's in the mail.
All right, there you go. All right. Well, hey, anyways, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts. Appreciate it.
Edit this well.
Thank you.